Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the official PlateUp Advanced Guide. I am TheOntarioGardener. I've been a playtester since February, part of the support team, as well as a moderator on the PlateUp Discord. Now, this is the third guide in the series. There's a basic beginner guide, and there's a bit more of an intermediate guide. If the things I talk about in this upcoming video seem a bit confusing, seem a bit out of place, you're not quite sure about it, pause the video, go back to those beginner and intermediate videos, and hopefully it'll make sense. So, without further ado, in the following video, I'm still a ghost, by the way, everybody. In the following video, we're going to be talking about large portion about automation, about simple setups that can really help you in the long run, in the early game, well through long game, about advanced automation setups, and a couple tips and tricks using some of the advanced appliances like the portioners, the teleporter, the combiner, etc. Also, we're going to be talking about researching a little bit more in depth, a couple tips and tricks, a couple recommendations for myself, as well as some different ways to go about setting up research so you can have a long run or make it more successful to get into your tier runs. Okay, so when it talks about research, you may say, okay, what does research actually mean? Well, it means having a research desk. Now, typically, you will get a research desk as a blueprint every day until you buy one. It's not guaranteed, but it is in your staple pool. As soon as you buy one and you place it down, the chances of getting a second one really goes down. So one tip that people use is when you start the game, you'll start off with one blueprint cabinet for free, is you pick up your first research desk blueprint and you stick it in your cabinet until you get a second one. And it's not always guaranteed to get a second one, but it's more chances to get a second one because you didn't buy the first one. You basically just stuck the blueprint in the cabinet and you waited. So maybe after day 2, day 3, day 4, you get one and then you purchase this. And what that means is you can immediately start researching a research desk, which will give you either a blueprint desk, which is where you can have more of a say in what blueprints you get because you can lock one in every single day that will drop at the end of the day. You have a discount desk, which costs 120 coins, which is a bit pricey. The blueprint is only 60. And then you have a copy desk, which does exactly what it says, which is also 120. Now, using combinations of these two desks here, this is very, very powerful. Because if you're discounting an item, which basically means you're cutting its cost in half every single day that you research. Things like teleporters that cost $12.50 each. If you have a teleporter in here, right, you copy it. So now you have two. You discount it. Now that means each one now costs 625 coins. The next day would be 312 coins. The next day, 150, etc., etc. And if you're copying it every single day, one tip that I have with that, by the way, is copy it and then buy the copy. Then that means the next day you can buy another one. The next day, buy another one. So it's very, very powerful. And you may say, well, how many tables can you really fit around things? Well, it depends on what your goal is. I have 6 here, and obviously, based on what you see here, every table isn't hitting every desk. Or every table isn't hitting every cabinet, excuse me. But you have to prioritize which ones you want. Do you want them all discounted? Do you want them all copied? Do you want them all researched? Typically, when you're at this stage, say you have 6 blueprint cabinets, you're not going to be researching every one. So maybe you'll have your research desk on this side. So you're researching these 3, and you want to discount all of them. And there you go. You have it set up something like that. Or you don't need to discount this one at the bottom because it's only, say, something like, I don't know, a counter that's only 20 coins or a freezer. You just want to copy it. So you can rearrange things like this. The key thing is to remember is whatever icon is above the cabinet. The little coins means discount. The little gray and black copier there, that's a copy machine. And then the beaker here, the science beaker, that means research. So you can configure these however it makes sense to you. Here, these two are just being copied. They're not being researched. Say you have a couple corner grabbers in here and you want to keep copying them, but you don't want to upgrade them. Well, you put them down here and you do it that way. So these are a couple more advanced techniques. Now, I don't have any blueprints in here to show you, but you get the idea. So a couple tips that you have with blueprint cabinets is if you're copying things, copy everything every day if you can, even if you don't intend to have it. Say you put a counter in this and because you want to get a freezer, but you get a workstation instead. by researching, copy it anyway, because at the end of that next day, you have a free copy that you could place on the ground, acting as a blueprint to use as part of your re-rolling. So every cabinet you have, a tip is to have something in every one every single day, regardless if it's something useful that you want to upgrade, that you want to copy. It doesn't matter. Even if you put a cabinet all the way in the back corner somewhere and stick something in it, because that will give you considerably a free blueprint to re-roll on for the next day. But again, basically, you want to prioritize what's most important. Your high dollar items, you want to discount. Your lower items, or even if they're discounted once, like say you discount a frozen prep station from 60 to 30 coins, we don't really need to discount that anymore. Put it down into the copy category and put something more valuable. I say you get something like a teleporter up here to discount. The next part is about blueprint desks. Now, we all know how blueprint desks work. As your day goes on, they will cycle between various blueprints, and you can just interact or use either interact or your pick up, put down button to lock in a blueprint. Now, the blueprint is not free. It'll drop at the end of the day, just like all your other ones will, but it'll be one that you selected. Now, one tip with blueprint desk, there's actually two tips. The first tip is if you use the phone, which is down off camera here, if you use the phone, the blueprints will cycle through faster, but you will not see as many as if you don't use the phone. Even though you'll see more, you will not see the full amount as if you would if you wouldn't use the phone. So you have to weigh your options, especially early on, or maybe even mid-game if you're running short of money. You want to ring, but you got to be careful because you may lock in something that you don't want. Now, the second tip, which not a lot of people know about, is for every blueprint desk you have, you will get a blueprint at the end of the day. Typically, you get 5 blueprints, right? 5 blueprints randomly at the end of every day, regardless of blueprint desk. But if you have more than 5 blueprint desks, you're guaranteed to get an extra blueprint. Well, as many blueprints as desks as you have if you have more than 5. If you have 7 blueprint desks, you will get 7 blueprints. There are also franchise cards, which I'll touch on later in the video. There are franchise cards that will give you 2 copies of a blueprint. So say you have 5 blueprint desks. At the end of the day, you're going to have 10 blueprints laying variously around your place. And you may say, well, you don't need that many. But again, as I mentioned earlier, you can use them for re-rolling. And re-rolling can be very, very powerful, especially later in the game. If you're not getting good blueprints on your desk, you're not getting good RNG drops, go into your re-roll mode and re-roll, because as the days go on, the chances of getting upgraded blueprints that drop naturally from a re-roll goes up. So here we have a little bit of advanced automation. And you may say, okay, there's grabbers. This looks pretty simple. I understand this. Oh, why is there a smart grabber here? Well, I'll show you in a second. Oh, what is this out here? This is one of my favorite tips and tricks when it comes to hot dogs or anything for that matter that has to be served to a customer. You can automate some of it. I'll touch on that a little bit later on. But when you do hot dogs, you have your main, you have your buns, you have your hot dogs. This works the same way, this setup exactly the same way for hamburgers. You have a hamburger roll and you have your hamburger refrigerator. And this is a very simple, this is a very basic automation, but this will last you through the late game because you have your grabbers going to a combiner, going to a danger hob, and you say, oh, whoa, danger hob, hold on a second. Well, the key for the danger hob using it is to use a smart grabber that's set to a hot dog with a bun. Because that means your hot dog, we'll go into practice mode real quick and I'll show you exactly what it does. Let's watch this. Your hot dog will go here. As soon as it's finished cooking, it's not going to burn. It's going to get, bam, slammed with a combiner with a bun. And there you go. And watch it back up. See how fast this is? Hot dogs are the fastest cooking thing in the game. Add that with a danger hob. They're incredibly quick. And here you go. And guess what? No fire at all. And it sits like that. This is a very basic automation. Very, very, very basic. But this is an advanced automation because this will last you through until late game. It's basic, but it will last you till late game. And again, you don't have to start all this at one time. If you have your basic hob, start with your basic hob. If you have a safety hob, use a safety hob. It will not hurt you. But for me, the key little tip here is to use a smart grabber pulling off whatever cooking device you're using, because it will never burn, because it'll always combine with a bun. And it'll pull off right into a prep, into a frozen prep, etc. Now, you may say over here, okay, what's this about here? You know what? Let's run a day real quick. Let's run a day. I want to call everybody in. Oh, they're coming in now anyway. So let's just see what happens. I'm going to load up a couple. I'll hold them. So you see what happened right here. The grabber pulled the ketchup. Now just watch what happens here. Are they going to want ketchup? They won't want ketchup, of course. Oh, there it went. So you heard a ding. Maybe you didn't hear it. So what this basically this is mimicking picking up and putting down a ketchup. You can use this type of setup here for anything that can be picked up off a conveyor belt. One good way to do this is if you have coffee. If you have a prep station where the ketchup dispenser is, it'll automatically pull a coffee off in the beginning of the day. When they order coffee, it'll automatically be grabbed off of the grabber because customers will grab off grabbers and teleporters off of an adjacent table. Let's see if we can hear the ding of the ketchup. Nope, that one didn't want ketchup. There is no visual for this, by the way. But basically, that's a little bit of a tip. I'm pretty sure you understand what I have here. This also works the same way as if you have a portioner attached to a pot somehow. Say you have a pot of mash sitting here, and there's a portioner here with a grabber. The customers will automatically grab the side off of the conveyor belt by themselves without you having to do anything. So this is my very best tip with using grabbers, is you can kind of, it's not a cheat, it's a game mechanic, but you can use it to your advantage because picking up and putting down ketchup, because you have to pick it up and put it down for every customer, is a big pain in the socks. Now moving on to a little bit more advanced automation, and this is for fish. Fish are one of those things you say, well, you get different fish, the bins are different every day. Yes, they are, but you can set up a couple simple automations that will be used for redfish and bluefish, which you always start out with, fillet and oyster. For spiny fish and crab cake, these take a little bit more effort. If you do search through my automation tutorials on my own channel, I have one for spiny fish and I have one for crab cake being combined with all the other fish. It's just too much to explain in this type of video. But what I have demonstrating here is two different types. Let's go into practice real quick. Two different methods to cook fish. We only have red and blue right now. Basically, you could come from a grabber going onto a heated mixer. Now again, if this is a fillet, the fillet will be chopped and it'll be cooked on the heated mixer. If it is an oyster, it'll be chopped on the heated mixer and go right on through. Up here is basically the same setup, but instead of having a heated mixer, we have a conveyor mixer and a safety hob. It adds a couple more steps, but again, depending on how your RNG is, depending on what you're doing, and as you can see here, a heated mixer with a redfish cooks at the same speed as a safety hob, roughly the same speed, safety hob with a bluefish. Safety hobs cook at 0.75 speed. Heated mixers cook at 0.4 speed, so much slower, but again, redfish cook a lot faster. So this is a bit more of an advanced setup, showing you two different methods. As you're moving on to different dishes, right now we're dealing with pies. And more importantly, this is automated pies. And you may say, okay, well, I kind of get the basics, how the combiner works. I get how this works a little bit, but I don't really know how to do it with pies. Well, because I've seen some people use a sink with the combiner to make a dough ball. I've people use a rapid mixer, use a regular mixer. How do you do it? How does it make sense? Well, this is the easiest way to set up auto pies. And I'm going to go right into practice mode. So as I'm talking, you can see how this works. Again, this is a basic setup. This is a very basic automation, but again, this is I consider an advanced automation because this setup will last you into late game. As you see, it's cooking pies. Again, if you have a starter or some soups, customers won't be coming in this fast. It's not like they come in instantly anyway, like the cats do. Is you have frozen preps here, and you could have multiple frozen preps. You could have, you have tons of stuff here. And this is a very beginner basic setup, but this is advanced because it will last you into late game. Now, you may say, okay, well, what if you have more than just meat pies? Well, let's take a look at that next. Now, we have two pies. We have mushroom and we have meat. And this is the same setup as we had in the previous clip. We're just adding the mushrooms, combiner. We're using the same mixture. You say, well, could you add two mixers? Of course you could. But as you'll see, I'm going to go into practice mode right now just to let it run as we're talking. Now, again, keep in mind, if you have frozen prep stations, you'll have pies here. So even though you're like, oh, this is super slow, why is it going so slow, etc., etc. No, it's going slow because you're just starting out fresh. If you'd have your frozen preps filled with pies, you'll be good to go. But look at that. The rapid mixer does keep up, for the most part. One rapid mixer will keep up with both hobs. Now, you do have to be a bit careful here when you use just one mixer, because of the way that the grabbers function and how they pull. It's a bit kind of wonky. That's still, being worked out. But as you see here, the rapid mixer is backing up. It's good to go. And again, once each pie type fills up, it'll stop anyway. There you go. That one's going through. We're going to have 3 here or 4 here. We're going to have 3 up here very quick. That's going to get pushed down to this, because corner grabbers will grab before a regular grabber will grab. It's just how they're set up. They're a bit quicker. Not noticeable, but they are quicker. There you go. Now you may say, okay, what if you have veg pies? Well, basically you would do the same thing as this. Is you would just have 2 combiners. One combiner here, and you'd have one combiner on the hob, setting it up just for the vegetable pies, and it would work just the same. This is some extreme automation. Ignore everything on the left here. This was actually made during the Halloween update, so quite a few weeks ago. But I'm going to run right into the practice mode, and this is pizza. This is using every type of thing in the game. We're using teleporters, we're using combiners, we're using mixers, we're using portioners, and look at this magic. Now again, is this feasible to do? Of course it is. Would you ever want to do it? I don't know. But this is an example of advanced automation. Not in a real game, but I will get one in a real game in a minute here. But just showing you what is possible with automation. This is part of my automation tutorials. It's called Extreme Pizza Automation, something like that. And as you can see, we're using things like mixers here, freezers. We're using smoke grabbers, teleporters that are teleporting the cheese pizza up to this teleporter, is adding onions, is adding mushrooms, is cooking it, portioning it, all into a frozen prep. So imagine if you have all 3 types of pizza and you're into, say, OT 20, OT 30, and you're trying to pump out pizzas. This is very much feasible. As I mentioned earlier on in the video, having multiple blueprint desks, having blueprint cabinets, copiers, discounters, it doesn't take that long to gather these materials. If you're copying 2-3 grabbers a day, 2-3 portioners a day, etc., it won't take you very long to acquire all the goods. And this is just for pizza. And this is pretty much a pretty advanced one for pizza, mind you. But now, let's get out of some extreme automation and go into a real-world game that has automation set up. It has advanced techniques set up, and I'll explain basically when you get into a late game run what type of things you want to look for and plan for to have a lengthy run. Alrighty, so the last kind of extreme automation is going to be this. I want to start the day just to show you how this works. This basically incorporates every piece of automation that you'll be using. This is a herd. I also have herd mentality on this game here. Basically, what's happening is I have a double setup of cooking burgers with using combiners, combining buns from 2 different areas. There's not using a portioner here because you don't portion burgers. But you have a full soaking sink setup. We have a full delivery system right here. And as I mentioned before in other videos, is customers will pull food off of adjacent conveyor belts. You don't want to use this type of setup with this one. This is going to be removing the dirty dishes. We have to wait for the customers to come, because if I ring, we will lose because we have herd mentality. But again, what's going to happen is they're going to start coming, and they're going to come fast and then fast. And here I'm actually using an ordering terminal. If you'd have instant ordering, and just watch what I'm doing. Instant. If you have instant ordering, this would be doing the same thing, but I don't have instant ordering. Now look what's happening. The dishes are being pulled automatically from the table, going through the teleporter into the soaking sinks. And that's the first wave of customers. Oh, we have one more. And there you go. These ones are already stocked up. The plates come in, they recycle back through. This one's waiting for plates. Again, you could add more plates back in here, but this is a bit of a extreme automation, showing you kind of pushing the limits a bit. I'm going to wait for that next herd mentality group to come in. We'll do the same thing, but just take it in here. You're not using anything crazy. You're using a lot of grabbers. You could have half this setup, honestly, to start out with. And that's what I want to mention as well while we're watching this kind of run through. Is when you start out doing automation, start out with one setup like this. We did burgers earlier and hot dogs. Start with one little setup, and then advance your way up to using soaking sinks, and then to teleporters. All right, let's get everybody served. Using an ordering terminal is very, very good if you're trying to do automation. Because basically right now, the restaurant is running without me doing anything at all except ringing the phone. If you wouldn't have herd mentality, you'd be ringing the phone. I do, so you can't really ring that way. And I'm activating the ordering terminal. If you'd have instant ordering, you wouldn't be using this at all. But this is basically a setup where it's hands-free. You don't have to do anything at all. The restaurant runs without you doing anything. Now, I should be able to call the last group in, and here they're going to come very fast. Herd mentality is one of those dangerous cards. And as soon as they sit down, we're going to start taking their order. And as you see, the burgers are flowing in. The people are sitting down. They're eating. The grabbers are taking the plates off the metal. The metal tables are irrelevant here. It's just if you'd have side dishes, you'd want to use metal tables for this, obviously. And they're going to keep pumping through just like that. The last one is served. Do we have any more customers coming in? I'm not sure. And that's a pretty much a fully automated. This is just burgers, but look at that. Hey, happy franchise, everybody. We just franchised. And while we're here on this screen, mind you, I want to talk about franchise cards just a very, very briefly. Because there are some franchise cards that are very, very good, and there's some franchise cards, in my opinion, that aren't so good. And here's a perfect example of two. One, in my opinion, is very, very powerful, and the other one is not very powerful. As you see, both of these cards give you plus 30% customers. So regardless of which one you choose, you're going to have 30% customers when you move into your next tier. Franchise cards only count when you, or only take effect when you move into the next tier of a restaurant. So say I'd fail on OT day 5. I'd pick my cards. I'd start my tier 2 or tier 1 restaurant, whatever tier you're at. This card will come with you for the rest of the run of the franchise. So here, as I said, so a grabber, you may say, well, grabbers are really powerful, especially if you're doing hamburgers, because you could automate pulling a bun in right away, which is true. But that's one grabber for 30% customers. And that's one grabber, and that's it for their whole run. Coupons, on the other hand, all blueprints cost 25% less. That means the blueprints that naturally drop on the ground after each day, any ones that are in copy desks, this is discounting aside, copy desks, they all will cost 25% less. So to me, this is a very powerful, very, very, very powerful card. Again, it still is at 30% increase, but it doesn't matter because most of them have 30% increase. But this is 25% less right off the bat. So say you get something like I'm trying to think what's expensive. Say you get a dishwasher that drops. They used to cost $120, mind you, so now they cost $60, but now they'll only cost $45, right? Say you get a robo buffer that drops. It normally costs $250. Well, 25% off of $250 is what? It's going to cost, I don't know, $180, whatever that math is, something like that, right? So it's a very powerful card. So for me, for this run, I'd always go coupons, because as you go along in your tiers, you'll have fewer customers naturally because you'll have more dishes and more dishes and more dishes. So having blueprints that cost less money will be super, super powerful. Now, for the last little segment here, I want to jump into one of my overtime day 40-something vanilla game through games, just to show you how complex a solo game or multiplayer game can get. Now, this is what an OT day 40 run looks like. Tier 1 or tier 0. This is one of my current runs. If you're following me on YouTube, you obviously have seen this. This is my Toasty Turkey Town. This is what it looks like when you have a ton of cards. And these are all food cards, mind you. There's no customer cards except the community card, which doesn't count. You have fish, you have oysters, you have broccoli, you have different types of soup, you have salad, you have pies, you have nut roast. So this is what a very full... I can go into practice mode just to show you some of the setups that I have here. I have your freezer set up here. Up here I have auto toast going. I've touched on this in one of my earlier videos. This is an auto toast run. I have the auto roast potatoes being done down here. Again, going into a teleporter, which is teleporting actually right to here. I have 3 different fish. There's also, there's no fillet. There's oysters, bluefish, redfish. I touched on this earlier in the video, how you set it up for all different types of fish. So we have automation, automation, automation. Over here we have frozen prep stations, along with freezers, along with more frozen prep stations, along with using, I love dishwashers, by the way. They're cheaper, they're faster, and they're great. Again, you have down here, you have automation set up. This is doing a portioner. I haven't touched on portioner very much, but portioner is basically portion or remove things. So when you're doing something like corn on the cob, it'll be done the same way as this, or the roasted corn. But look, when it goes here, it portions out the seeds that goes into the seeds, which again teleports right up here. And here I'm using a grabber to put the seeds on both sides. Let's just take their order and see what happens. Look at all the soup that they want. Soup. This is, you can get really extreme here. Another soup. And then what basically, as the game went on here, what I basically did is I collected items like freezers, frozen prep stations, more freezers, because if you're having groups that are size 10 or 9 or 8, you need to have additional frozen areas here, because if not, it'll be impossible to get soups on. Soup is only 3 portions. A nut loaf is only 3 portions. So how can you serve 10 customers? Look what they want. Just take a look at that. We have triple oysters. We have a full salad. We have some beans on toast with tons of broccoli. We have a nut loaf with roasted, a couple doubles, a plain toast. How could you do that if you don't have things automated? And furthermore, we have other things automated. We have our, we were lettuce out in the dining room being automated, again, with a teleporter, shooting it all the way back here to this frozen prep station. And then in here, we have auto coffee, double coffee machine going to frozen prep, again, to a teleporter. The teleporter is going right here. So if customers are sitting at this table here and they order coffee, it'll automatically be delivered, just like the seeds will be delivered. Or we also have affogato. So guess what? I have my ice cream right next door, so I can go boom, boom, affogato served, boom, boom, affogato stored. You could store them if you want. So this is a very advanced, this is a very, I don't even know how you want to talk about it. It's very advanced setup. You have tons of floor buffers. You got your trainers, and you can just go super, super fast. Look how fast I'm going. No mods here. Well, let's turn that one off. There's no speed mods. Look how fast we're going. Fast, fast, fast. Again, this is how you set things up for success as you go into longer runs. Now, like I said before, this is a lot about playing solo. If you're playing with another person, or say 4 people, one person could be on fish. One person could be on bread, one person could be on salad, one person could be on sides, and one person could be serving, one person on dessert. I know this is about 6 people, but again, you could alternate jobs. Now, this is a large size restaurant. It's 12 by 16. This is the max size of the basic restaurants that are in the game. Now, again, I mentioned about modding and using the PlateUp planner and the kitchen designer to make insanely large maps, which I will be doing some modded gameplay, mainly just to have a large layout. But look at this. You have freezers everywhere. You have frozen prep stations everywhere. I don't even have things automated. Like nut loaf isn't automated. Pies aren't automated. Tomatoes aren't automated. And you know why? Because I'm just simply out of room. Which, going into the future workshop support, being able to create your own layouts of kitchens, even if it's a big, gigantic, 2-room rectangle, and you can cram all kinds of stuff in there, it'll still be super, super fun. Now, this is probably, the most advanced that most of you, especially if you're learning the game, this is way advanced for anything that you're going to be doing. But again, this is something that you can strive for, even playing solo. OT day 40, group sizes 9 to 10, 6 groups, having all food cards. This is something that is 100% attainable. This is 100% vanilla play. But again, you can take a screenshot of this as you want, just to say, you know what? This is what I want to get up to. Now, everything that we covered in the game, we talked about research in this episode, talked about research. We talked about basic automation that I consider advanced because it lasts until late game, which we're at OT day 40. Way in the beginning of the video, when I had that initial hot dog setup, you could use that in this map and it would still be viable. Talked about the other guides, the basic guide, the intermediate guide. Check those out if you're a new player especially. Don't jump into this video and look at this map and say, I want to do this, because it's going to be next to impossible without learning the basics. Talked about combiners, portioning, about how to do proper research, tips and tricks with research desks, blueprints, copying them, re-rolling, etc., etc., etc. I did touch on automating a bit, but as I said before, is start out small with automation. Automate your dishes first. If you're having issues with dishes, automate the removal off of a hob into a prep station if you're having issues with things burning, and then get into something like doing fish like this. If you have bread, this is a pretty complex. You're using a portioner, freezers, combiners, the sink to make auto toast. But again, this is very doable. This is in a 3x4 area, easily doable in that amount of space to have fully automated toast. And I think that's about it for this advanced guide. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed the basic guide as well as the intermediate guide. If you're looking for more automation guides or tutorials, please check out my videos on my channel. The link is in the description below. Also, you can just search the playlist. If you're looking for longevity runs like I've been doing here, I have a series out every single day. But I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope it helped everybody out. I'm the Ontario Gardener. You can find me on YouTube just as you're seeing me now, as well as I stream on Twitch throughout the day. And if you're interested in more PlateUp guides, please like the video as well as the Steam post and subscribe to my channel. That way you'll get any new automation guides or PlateUp content right to your email or right to your notification center, and you can check out all those cool videos. So stay tuned for more. I'm the Ontario Gardener. Have a great day.